Hi everyone, I hope you're okay. Just having our last night before news before your real exam on Tuesday. I've just got a few little things, just reminders for structuring of questions and things to go over. So have a little listen, read through the PowerPoint and then crack on with some more revision. So just to kick us off, I'm just going to give you a quick reminder about the multiple choice questions that are on the paper. There'll be a couple, sort of 2, maybe even 3 on there. Now the biggest thing is that you have to remember is that you need to put a cross in that box, okay? Don't tick it, don't do anything else. Put a cross in the box because when it gets scanned into the computer it won't be able to register or read your answer and then you could just not get the mark. If you want to change your answer, just put a really neat line through the middle of the cross so that it's clear, and then obviously you can then put what you want to change your answer to. But remember, be like doubly sure that you do want to change it, because once you've changed it once you can't really change it again. Read those questions really carefully. It's usually asked something like, what is a cultural factor? What is a lifestyle factor? What's an environmental factor? So brush up on those bits if you feel like you need to. And just double check how many marks are available. If it's a 2-mark question, it probably wants you to pick 2 choices. If it's a 1-marker, it's probably 1 mark or one box that you need to respond to. So just be really careful that you read that question carefully and think about it before you actually answer. So you then have your 2 and 4 mark answer questions, and those are the ones where you have that kind of point and explain structure. So check the question really carefully to see which area of health and well-being you are being asked about. So is it going to be something physical health, like to do with their body? So is it something about diet, or how does it impact their sleep, or how does it impact their general health? It could be emotional, so their thoughts and feelings, so you could relate something to like self-esteem or how they're feeling. And then it could also be social, so remember it's the relationships you have with people. So you've got formal, which are like the professionals, so teachers, doctors, people like that. Informal is your friends and family. Intimate is like boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, etc. And then just friendships, pretty much anything else. So check the question really carefully. Is it asking for like the impact of something on physical health? Then that's what you need to make sure you're explaining. Okay, so moving on to this 6-mark question then, these are my 4 points that you really need to make sure that you have considered when you're answering the 6-mark discuss questions. So the first thing is, read that case study really carefully. There's going to be at least sort of 3, 4, maybe even 5 potential points that you could talk about. So use a variety of those points. Don't just stick to one thing like most of you did in the mock. Use all of the case study. Then also when you're reading the question, you need to decide, okay, do I need positive points only? Do I need negative points only? Or do I need to put a combination of the 2? And then make sure when you're reading the question, you have taken into consideration, okay, well, what part of the health and well-being is this question asking me? Does it say how does it impact their physical health, emotional well-being, or social well-being specifically? Or does it not say anything, in which case you would have to talk about a variety of them? The alternative ending to that question might be the bullet point in blue, where actually it doesn't say anything about health and well-being. It might ask you about a specific lifestyle factor or a specific circumstance that person's going through. So how does it affect someone's ability to quit smoking, for example? In which case, all of your answers should be linking back to the idea of how does it impact their ability to quit smoking. So just a reminder, you are going to have to put a minimum of 3 points in your answer for that 6 marker. Like I said before, they need to be 3 different points from the case study, so make sure you're using a variety. You don't want to talk about the same point 3 times. Now, when it comes to the question, you need to decide, okay, does this question want only positives, only negatives, or a combination of the 2? And over the next couple of slides, I'm going to talk to you about figuring out what it wants from you. So how do you know what the question actually wants in terms of what points it wants you to make? So If you see in the question, it might even really explicitly say, how does this negatively affect someone's health and well-being? So that first one says, discuss how Walter's circumstances might negatively affect his health and well-being. It literally says it in the question. So that one's quite straightforward. The one underneath is where it might get a little bit more confusing, and that's where you need to use your brain basically to try and figure it out. So that question says, discuss how Jade's circumstances might mean that she struggles to quit smoking. Now that word struggles has negative connotations, so in which case it's going to be negative points that you're making. So some examples of positive, again, it could literally say the word positively affect in the question, in which case that's quite simple, you'll be able to figure that out. Now, again, positive connotations, it might be something like how he feels motivated, so that's a positive thing, motivation is positive. You need to look out, does it have more negative or positive connotations to it? In which case you would then only do just the positive points. Now, if a question needs both, it won't say anything like that in the question, and they'll just be a lot more, they'll be simpler in terms of the question. So discuss how Joe's circumstances might affect his health and well-being, or discuss how Edna's circumstances might impact her ability to reduce her alcohol intake. It doesn't actually say there whether they're positive or negative, okay? So it just says impacts the ability or affects health and well-being. That's when you need to do positives and negatives. It still needs to be 3 points. So one of your points needs to be a positive, one of your points needs to be a negative, and then that third one is whatever you decide. Now, quite often in the case studies, it will have more negative things or more positive things in there, which will make it easier. Remember, this exam is like 2 hours long. You say it's too much time. Make a little plan at the bottom of your page. If you want to jot down some of the points that you could potentially use, then absolutely do that. You've got time to do that. Then once you've written them all out, you can then pick the strongest 3 that you think you're really going to be able to talk about and answer that question well with. Now, sometimes in that question, it will say about a particular area of health and well-being, and how do you know which one you're linking to? Well, quite often, if it wants only one specific area, it's going to have that word in the question. So here we've got 3 examples. Discuss how Sam's circumstances might affect his emotional well-being. Well, then you're only talking about emotional. Discuss how Jane's circumstances might affect her physical health. You're only going to be talking about physical health. And discuss how Alice's circumstances might affect her social well-being. If that's the case, that is quite a simple way to figure out what you're supposed to be writing about. You just need to make sure that the 3 points are always relating back to that one area of health and well-being. If the question's asking for emotional and you start talking about social stuff, you're not going to get any marks for that. Alternatively, the question might again be quite open-ended, in which case you need to talk about all of the areas of health and well-being. So the question might be something like, discuss how Jude's circumstances might affect his health and well-being. Now, it doesn't specifically say in there which area you need to talk about, so you can choose, okay? But remember, you're going to have to make 3 points. You might as well try and link it to each area of health and well-being. So you might try and make a point that's more to do with the physical stuff, you might try and make a point that's more to do with the emotional stuff, you might try and make a point more to do with the social stuff. In terms of health and well-being, I know lots of you may be sat here thinking, well, where's the I? They don't really include it. So when you're doing it, think about PES, ignore the I for now, but physical, emotional and social. And again, try and use a variety. Don't do 3 physical points. Try and mix it up a bit. Now, the final bit to that is sometimes it might link it to a specific lifestyle factor or circumstance that that person is going through in the case study. So you might get questions like, discuss how George's circumstances might affect his ability to quit smoking, or how Martha's circumstances might affect her ability to lose weight, Henry's circumstances might affect his ability to meet new people. So whatever the question is, you need to link it to what it's saying, what it might affect to itself. So if it's ability to quit smoking, you're going to create your different points, positives or negatives, but they all link back to the smoking idea. Positives or negatives, but all link back to being able to lose weight. Positives or negatives, but all link back to being able to meet new people. So it's not necessarily going to be like an emotional thing. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. So this is why reading the questions is so important, and also making sure that you do like a little plan can also be really helpful. So just to reiterate what I said about those case studies, read them really carefully. Pick out all the key information. Some of you might think actually underlining that key information is really helpful. Do that with the 6 marker discuss questions, but also in this case the table question as well. There's going to be about 3, 4, 5 things that something is happening with that individual. It should hopefully be fairly clear. As I said before, take your time, make a little plan if you want to. You've got 2 hours, you don't have to rush. So when you are answering that table question, there's 2 basically tasks that you need to do. So the first column of boxes is the action that that individual needs to take, something that they need to do to basically make themselves better or improve their health and well-being. So we're looking for a little short phrase or a sentence, and what we need to do is, again, make a variety of points. Try to pick 3 completely different things so that you don't fall into that trap of putting your answers all in the same category on the mark scheme. So, for example, make one of your points about smoking or quitting smoking, something about doing more exercise, and maybe something about alcohol, for example. So don't try and do 3 points all on smoking, because you're just not going to get the marks for that. So when you're coming up with those suggestions of actions, try and just be sensible with your suggestions. Think about, what might a doctor say to this person in the case study? So use a nicotine alternative rather than smoking cigarettes daily, or ensure you're eating at least 5 pieces of fruits and vegetables each day if they've got a poor diet, or something like that, okay? Then in your second column, it's about the impact that action is actually going to take on that individual's health and well-being. So if it's something about smoking, just go for the most obvious answer. Say, if he stops smoking, he's going to be at a lower risk of developing lung cancer. Or if you're having a healthier diet, it could potentially mean that you're going to lose weight. If you have a lower alcohol intake, your blood pressure is going to go down. So when it comes to those 6 markers, try your best, see what you can do. Like I said before, don't rush things. You will have time, okay? Ask for extra paper if you need it, if you want it, they can give that to you. But you should be able to answer all of those questions in the time allowed and still have time to go back, double check everything, and just generally feel a bit confident. Now, quick things to revise. I know we had a little look at the categories of the health indicators. Make sure you have a little look over them again, BMI, blood pressure, those sorts of things. You might get like a 2 marker or a 1 marker on it. And just keep on answering those questions in that health and social care book. If it was me, I would make sure that I've answered every single question in that book back to front. And making sure that they're all done, so I've had as much practice as possible ready for Tuesday. So one final thing, good luck. I hope it really goes well. I will be there Tuesday morning getting you into the exam. I'll be there a bit early so that you can ask me any questions, and we'll do a little bit more last minute revision, and you can have a go at just generally, if you feel like you need any help with anything, we can have one little last chat about stuff. But yeah, don't forget, don't accidentally sleep in, be there for your exam, be there bright and early, and just try your best.